Alright, so you just found out that Illuvium Zero is coming out this week, January 6th. Now you're looking into buying a plot of land. There are a few things that you need to take into consideration when looking for a plot that fits your needs. Let's get into the spreadsheet and I'll run through a few of them. So you're going to have to figure out what your play style is or what your goal is with this land. So you're looking at either, do you want to play it for fun? Do you want to use it to fund your overworld play? Are you going to be looking for blueprints? Or are you going to use it to farm fuel for passive income? Next, you'll want to figure out which type of alluvials that you like best for when it comes to scanning and finding blueprints. A different region land will produce different affinity type blueprints. Then you want to consider the resource sites. Do you have site diversity? Site location is a factor. In the landmark type, based on which fuel you think might be most valuable, and the resource sites that are on your plot of land. And lastly, the cost. And that's the money and time cost. How much money you have to spend, and how much time you have available to play the game. So let's talk about your play style. You'll see that based off your normal tier 1 plot of land, a tier 2 will have a 33% boost in fuel production. A tier 3 will have a 100% boost in fuel production plus an element landmark. And your tier 4 will have the 300% boost in fuel production and it'll have a fuel landmark. So if your goal is to fund the overworld, in my opinion, the plot that's going to be working best for you would probably be a tier 3 plot of land. With the element landmark, you should be able to get to max production quicker than any other plot of land. And then you can play it more passively to create the fuel needed to fund your play in the overworld. Second best would be a tier 4. Obviously, that's going to cost you a little bit more money. And although we don't know how much fuel any of these plots are going to produce, I suspect that the tier 1 and the tier 2 plots of land may not produce enough fuel to fund daily overworld play. Secondly, if you're looking for blueprints, if that is your main goal, then it's pretty clear cut that tier 1 plots of land are going to be your best bet. Tier 1 plots are your cheapest, and the rate at which you could find blueprints for any tier of land is going to be the same. Now in higher tiers, you'll be able to produce more fuel and more elements that can help you research more than a tier 1 plot of land. But having multiple plots of tier 1 land gives you more opportunity to research and find these blueprints at the same rate as any other plot of land. Now if you're looking to use this for passive income, the clear-cut choice for you is going to be that tier 4 plot of land. It's going to have that 300% boost and that fuel landmark that'll give one of your fuels an additional 10% boost. This is clearly going to produce the most amount of fuel, which you'll be able to sell to the liquidity pool and extract ETH from the system. And lastly, if you want a plot of land to just do a little bit of everything with, you want to search some blueprints, you want to get some fuel, you want to use some of that fuel to go into the overworld, I think a tier 2 plot is going to be a good one for you. Because as you work up to the tier 3 and the tier 4, you really should specialize in what you're doing to make the most out of that plot of land. But then on the other hand, if you go with a tier 1 plot of land, you may not be able to produce enough fuel to really fund any overworld gameplay that you want. So next we'll talk about which region you want to be looking for. If you have a favorite alluvial type or affinity type that you want to be finding blueprints for. So if you get a plot in Abyssal Basin, you're mostly going to be researching and finding nature and water type alluvials with a little chance of earth. At Brightland Steppes, you'll be mostly nature and air. For Crimson Waste, you'll be fire and earth with some air in there. For Halcyon Sea, you'll be mostly water, but with nature and air as well. For Taiga Boreal, you'll be mostly air, with an equal chance of fire and water on top of that. Shard Bluff Labyrinth, you will be earth and fire mostly, with a slight chance of water. And Crystal Shores is probably going to be one of your most evenly spread out ones, with earth, air, water, and fire. But say you like an alluvial like Seer. So Seer is going to be earth and fire. So you could find him at the Crimson Waste. Taiga Boreal, even though there's 25% fire, probably not a good chance to find him there, although there is a possibility. But your best bet to find him, because of the magma affinity, is going to be at the Shard Bluff Labyrinth. Now let's move over to a Malura. So Malura is Bloom, which is earth and nature. So while Shard Bluff Labyrinth has a high chance for earth, there's really no chance for nature. So you would want to search around for a plot of land that has earth and nature in it. And it looks like your best bet would be Brightland Steppes or even Abyssal Basin to find an alluvial with that bloom affinity. So now we'll take a look at the resource sites and what you should be looking for. If you're looking for a tier 1 plot of land, you're only going to get one fuel site. So you're probably going to want to pick the fuel that you believe is going to be the most valuable. Now, we don't know yet for sure until the game comes out, but you have your Krypton that's going to be mostly used for travel. Then you have your Hyperion and Solon. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but one is going to be used for shards and one is going to be used for crafting items and weapons. And then you'll get 3 element sites, so ideally you find a plot of land with one of each of the 3 elements. And there's no landmark, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Now, if you're looking for a tier 2 plot of land, you're going to have the 3 fuel sites, so ideally you're finding one of each fuel on that plot of land, and you're going to have 6 element types. And in a perfect world, you'd have 2 of each of the element sites, but that's going to be pretty rare. So if you can get at least 1 of each element site, I think you're in good shape. For a tier 3 plot of land, you're going to have 6 fuel sites. So if you can get at least 1 of each type, you're in good shape. And you'll have 9 element sites. So ideally here, you would find one that has at least 2 of each of the element sites. Now when it comes to the landmark, I personally think if you have a landmark that matches up with the least amount of sites for that particular fuel, you're in good shape because of the decreased cost in converting to that fuel type. Now, it does also make a difference if your fuel types are clumped together. If you have 3 Krypton sites that are close by, the Krypton extractors can be more efficient. So if you have 3 Krypton sites and they're spread out in all different parts of the map, it might actually lower your efficiency. Now, if you're looking for a tier 4 plot of land, you're going to have 9 fuel sites, so if you can get 2 of each of the fuel sites, that would be great. And then you'll have 12 element sites. Again, just 2 of each, I think you're in good shape. For a landmark, you're going to have a fuel landmark. You're going to want your fuel landmark to line up with the fuel that you have the least amount of sites for, again, for that same reason, for that decreased conversion cost. And again, here, since you have more of those fuel sites, but also with your element sites, if you see any that are clumped closer together for that particular fuel or element, you're in good shape there. And lastly, we'll talk about the cost and the time. Now, we'll start out with the time real quick because this is something that we're really not too sure about. We've heard as short as 20 minutes a day per plot of land to upwards of an hour plus. One of the best explanations I heard is that early on when you start playing the game, it's going to be more time. And as your land develops, it'll take less and less of your time to extract the same amount of resources. But my estimate from everything I've heard is probably going to take you about 30 minutes per day, per land, if you're efficient and you know what you're doing. So now let's go on to the cost. So right now a tier 4 plot of land is almost 13 Ethereum. So for the sake of this conversation, and we want to compare all 4 plots, we're going to assume you have 13 Ethereum to spend. Now, if you buy that tier 4 plot of land, you'll really only need a half an hour out of your day to play it. If you decide to go with tier 3 plots of land, you could possibly get 4 plots of that tier of land. That'll take you about 2 hours per day to play. If you went with tier 2 lands, now you're up to 11 plots of land. That could take you 5.5 hours. And that's when you might want to start thinking about renting your land out or sponsoring somebody else with your land, or scholars, for lack of a better term. And then going down to tier 1. Tier 1, at the time of this recording, is less than half an ETH. So you could get 24 plots of land. But that still could take you 12 hours to play, which is unreasonable for just about everybody. So if you're going to go that route, then you would definitely need to, find some sponsees. So run down a quick scenario here. If you want to just fund your overworld play by extracting fuel and sending it over, then a tier 3 might be the plot you're looking for. Let's say you're really into that Ramfire and that Scariox or Seer, those type of alluvials, then the region you might want to be looking at is a Crimson Waste. For resource sites for that tier 3, ideally you'd find 1 of each fuel site and 2 of each of the element sites with a landmark that matches the element site which you have the least of. And if you have 1 hour a day to play and up to 12 ETH to spend, then you might want to consider getting 2 tier 3 plots of land to play yourself. Another thing you could do is get 2 tier 3s to play yourself, but in addition to that, you could get another 6 tier 2 plots and have a scholar or somebody to play that land for you. So there are some things to consider when you're going to purchase a plot of land. I wouldn't just blindly go in and pick whatever one you want, just based on the aesthetics of which land looks best to you. Although I do understand how that can be important to some people. But I hope this video helps if you're going to look for a plot of land for yourself. And whether you're going to purchase a plot of land or you already have a plot or two, comment down below. I'm curious what you have.